So good evening, YouTube, and welcome to Danielle, or better known as Danielle The Happy Medium. I hope everybody is well this evening. Tonight is viewers' questions, so anything you want to talk to me about, anything that interests you about the spiritual world, all these types of things. While I'm waiting for you lot, I'm just going to do some bits and pieces with YouTube and also with Facebook, and then I'll be right with yous. So for those who are just joining, hi to everybody. Hi everybody. Are you all right? Hi Sarah. Hi Laura. Hi Chris as well. Or Christina. Hope it is. I hope you're well. I'm just going to nip this over onto Facebook and then I'll be right with you. Hi to Jess as well. Hi Jess. Jess, are you all right? Let me just take a look here. Now, I don't mean to be rude, but ultimately I have to move because obviously the laptop is this way and use it that way. Evening, Cam. I hope you're well, sweetheart, and I hope you're keeping okay. A minute. I'll just pop this on the page and then I'll be right with you. There we go. Done. As easy as pie. Anyway, hiya to Kay. Hiya to Cora. Hope you're well, darling. Let me take a look. Oh, I've just knocked you off. I wasn't meant to do that. I'm not really technical. I'm a little tired today. I've been busy all day anyway. But I hope you're all well. I'm great. I'm having a cheeky Chinese. I was thinking about Chinese myself later actually. Because I haven't had any tea yet. Because I've been busy all day, so I haven't had a chance to eat or anything, so I thought about that one myself. I have loads of questions. Well, Sarah, you get them typing in there, and I will certainly do my best to see if I can do anything with them. Hiya to Julie as well. I hope you're well there, Julie. So, like I say, this evening, it's all about yous. It's all about what yous want to talk about. Is it Kyoda? I hope I've got your Freeman. I hope I've got your name right there. I'm shocking my name, so please forgive me. So tonight is all about yous. It's what yous want to talk about. Anything that you want to talk about with the spirit world or what you would like to gain more knowledge in is ultimately what these Q&As are about. I'm a big believer messages are an exceptionally good thing, but if you have the knowledge behind them, it's even better. And more so for the budding medium out there, or for those who, hello to Samantha, hello darling, hello to Lorraine as well, for those who are, you know, the more mediumistic or looking to do more with their mediumistic sort of skills or abilities there, then this is always a good place to have your question, have your say, without feeling as if you may be a little stupid. Hiya Karen, she's one of my mentorship girls there, so hiya darling. Because I know that from time to time, and from what I'm hearing from workshops and from other people that I speak to on a regular basis, they think they're stupid asking questions. They think because they're a medium or they have mediumistic abilities that they should have all the answers, and unfortunately it just doesn't work like that. And I know through myself, and when I was these live streams end in 5 minutes, oh my god, you're back. Danielle's going to watch Venom. Not tonight. Not tonight, you. Please don't you start. Not tonight. We're not going to watch Venom. We've already had this conversation. You embarrass me and we feel embarrassed. And it takes a lot to embarrass me, but you do embarrass me. Anyway, so for all those who have questions regarding the spirit world, if you would like to leave them in the comments box, I'll do my very best to answer them. Anyway, any questions, please? I'm not going to Nando's. I don't even like Nando's. I don't like Nando's. I don't. Sorry. I have to decline. I have to decline. Anyway, so hi to everybody who's just joining. So when you are ready, I'm ready. I've got my tea and stuff here. Is the spirit world telling you to watch Venom? No, the spirit world is not telling me to watch Venom. No, definitely not. No, not tonight. Evening, Gemma. How you doing? I hope you're well. Right. Sarah's asking, I get this feeling inside the day before something's happening with the family, but it's like 3 days before the outside family. Right, so what we have going on there, Sarah, is a little bit of what I would call a psychic ability. In order to work for the spirit world, you have to have some kind of psychic ability. So psychic ability is reading the auric fields of other people, reading the auric fields of an animal, whatever it may be. Everything has an auric field. Auric field retains information. It can hold information. Through reading the auric field, we can also sort of predict into the future. So we can maybe events that may be coming in, maybe it could be things that are going to happen in the next few days or weeks or months there. If you're with a really good fortune teller who's a psychic to me and you, then these people can predict years in advance and for it to come off. But what that would tell me there, Sarah, is a touch of a psychic ability going on with a chance of you maybe having some kind of connection also to the spiritual world. Now, the spirit world can forewarn us of certain things, or they can sort of make us aware of stuff if they feel it's important that we know these things. But from the feeling that I'm getting from your question and with what you're telling me there, I would say that was more a psychic ability than it is a spiritual link there, if that makes sense. What I would say to you is a lot of what I do when I'm when my psychic work or psychic things or the things that I need to know here on the earth plane, they tend to come in the form of dreams. So I'll dream it and it'll come off, or I'll dream it, but sometimes I can be months in advance. It just so happens that I just happen to dream it at that particular time. So could it be a forewarning, or could it be something that they're letting me know is coming in? Without a shadow of a doubt. So I would say, Sarah, that's a touch of a psychic ability. Way to enhance it, test it out. Basically, what I would do is if the phone starts ringing, see if you can guess who's at the other end of the phone, or feel that energy. So is it a man or is it a woman? That's a good way of being able to test your psychic ability. Also, knocking at the door. So who's at the door before you even get to the door and open the door? Can you tell whether it's a man or a woman? Do you even know who that person is? Other ones, which is what we sometimes do in Gateway Between Two Worlds and things like intuition tests, which is what's hiding underneath the cup. So you can sort of guess without saying it. So it's like an internal sort of guessing sort of, it's intuition basically, but on a psychic ability. Hiya Julia, thank you very much for that. So I hope that answers your question a little bit there for you. Yes, you're dreaming as well. Yeah, I tend to dream at a canny bit. Anyway, the week before my dad passed, I dreamt I was in my auntie's who had a big haul, and I felt a sense of loss, and she was telling me it was going to be okay, but was she warning me? The spirit world can, when people are going to be going back towards the spiritual world, they can come forward and they can let us know that loved ones are going to pass there to the spiritual world, or they can make us unaware that there's an event coming. i.e., I've had a feeling now for a couple of days that something's on the way. I'm not sure what it is at present. I know that there's something that's on its way. I know that there's something that I need to be careful of. I know that there's something that's going on behind the scenes that I'm unaware of. I'm not completely sure on what's going on, but I am aware of this feeling that something's going to be coming. Time frame 2 to 4 weeks. I'm just not quite sure as to what it is yet. And sometimes we don't always get to know everything. Sometimes because there's a lesson in it there, or sometimes because we have something to learn from it. So I'm intrigued to see what's on its way, if that makes sense. So anyway, I hope that one... right. Cam's asking, when working, is it possible to drop into trance without asking spirit to step forward? What we can do is with trance, with what we do when we go into any sort of meditation, or when we go into any sort of sitting in the power, we are altering what we call the brain waves or the brain activity. So we are slowing down the brain waves in what we call the altered states. Now, the altered states, there's 5 altered states there. When we are doing trance, we're always looking for the deepest level of altered state. What tends to happen is because we are, or we don't have any sort of structure in place or any barriers in place, we can sort of drop into trance quite easily there. I would say sometimes we have to have mechanisms in there in order for you to be completely... hold on a minute, folks. There. We can drop down into the altered states quite quickly or quite easily. I know myself, because I do trance myself, I can sort of move from a conscious world into quite a deep altered state relatively quite quick. Within about 4 or 5 minutes of sitting, I can be there. Maybe it's a little bit quicker depending on how busy my mind is before I'm sitting for trance, if that makes sense. If I've been having quite a hectic day, it can take me a little bit longer to drop down. If it's been a quiet day and it's been an easy day, I can get there from anywhere between a minute to 3. It just depends on where my mind is. But in answer to your question, Cam, can it happen? Yes, is the in short answer to your question. But what I would say to you is try to keep a sort of idea on that, or say to your guides, if you're going to be sitting on a more regular basis, or you're going to be sitting for meditation or sitting in the power, make them aware that you don't want to drop too far down, and they will keep you sort of where you need to be without taking you to the next level. What will happen if you drop into the trance state, or you drop down into that altered state where you're deep enough? You'll just fall asleep. Nothing will happen to you. There's nothing bad can happen to you. You'll just fall asleep and then you'll wake up and you'll just be normal again. Assume my gatekeeping happen with that? Yes, it can. But like I say, even without them in place, if you were to drop down into them altered states or them deeper altered states, if that makes sense, what I would say to you is that ultimately all that will happen there is you'll just fall asleep and everything will just go back to normal and you will just come around and wake up and just be yourself there. But you can sort of have a chat with your guides, explain to them you don't want to drop them too far down. But if you're happy with that and you want to drop to them altered states, by all means do so. Just ask them to keep an eye on it, make sure that, you know, everything's ticking along as it should be. But no harm will come to you. Like I say, you'll just fall asleep. So I hope that answers your question there, Cam. Right, let's take a look and see who else. So Samantha saying I always dream stuff and it happens as well. That tends to be a psychic ability or a connection to a psychic ability. I know sometimes with my guides, when I've had an extremely busy day and I haven't paid attention, which does happen from time to time, I'll have you know, they will come forward in the sleep world in order so that they can get over what they feel that I need to know there. Other times, it's just that my psychic ability has kicked in while I have been dreaming, or there's been something within my mind or within my head that has took me there, which has allowed me to be able to say things that I need to say, if that makes sense. Also, what can happen as well is we have to be careful with when we're dreaming or dreamlike states, because what happens is we do our... I am going to take a look at that. Because look, just give me a minute. Right, there, that should have stopped that there. What has happened is what can happen is that the mind may or does dilute the information, so we may only see aspects of the dream or only certain pieces of the dream, and that is because the mind has altered or it has started to dilute the information or isn't allowing certain bits of information in there. So where we may say bits and pieces and we haven't got the full picture, it's either one, because the mind has altered or started to dilute the information, or two, because we're not ready to see the outcome or we don't want to see the outcome. There tends to be that. They're the two of the reasons there as to why that may happen. Kay's asking me, sorry about that, I've got a terrible bad chest. Kay's asked, my dad passed 4 weeks ago. It was his birthday yesterday. After I woke up, I heard his voice behind me and I'm sure he said happy birthday. Just 2 words, no more. That's quite possible, that I have to be honest with you. That is quite possible. The reason being is because the spirit world always want us to know that they're fitting well. They always want us to know that they're okay and that they're all right on the other side of life there. They tend to come around about birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas times. We tend to find that, you know, when babies are born, this type of thing, they're very important to the spirit world. So they're always sort of with us and they always want to celebrate them times with us, whether they're here in the physical or whether they're just there in the spiritual. So well done, Kay, and congratulations. And I bet it was a beautiful experience there for you. Okay, I think we've lost Venom Lover and the other one, so hopefully things should settle down a little bit for us there. So any other questions for you, lads? Let me just see if I've missed any. I hope I haven't missed any while I've been messing about with them. Evening, everybody who's just saying evening. Samantha saying, what happened? What has happened? I've always have baby dreams to attempt, right. So it's all about, there's a look. Sorry. Samantha says, what has happened? I always have baby dreams before people tell me they're pregnant, and normally I can tell the sex of the baby. I do find it scary at times. Oh, well, bless your little heart. What a real honour it is to predict babies. I love babies and I love to predict them. I think that the one sure thing that the spirit world always guarantee, and I think that it's the one sure thing that always brings a lot of happiness in any sort of family, especially where there's been problems or where there may be some issues and things, and children tend to, or the joy of new children can certainly sort of mend rifts there sometimes as well. So well done, congratulations. I hope you don't mind it too much. The gentleman is saying good morning, everybody, from somewhere foreign, as far as I'm aware. Let me have a look and see what else is going on. And see what else I've got to say. Julie's saying, hiya. Not like you, man, Julie. Normally you've got loads of questions. So hopefully a bit will give us some more questions and things. Danielle, I think you've missed Julie's question. Right. Your question's further up. Sorry, Julie, darling. I'm trying to watch for the people. Rewrite it for us, Julie. Evening to Danielle as well. I have a feeling about a friend's mum for a few weeks and it's happened now and the outcome ain't good. Well, sometimes in life the outcome isn't good. Unfortunately, not everything has a positive end. Sometimes, unfortunately, things do turn out badly for whatever reasons. Some things work out just as we intend them to. Other times, things do not always work out the way we intended them to or the way we would like them to. And sometimes that's just the way life is, Sarah, unfortunately. Be careful. Don't go predicting anything you shouldn't be predicting because you can get wrong for them types of things. So go careful with that one, won't you? All right. Julie, rewrite your question so I can reread it because I've lost it in amongst all of that stuff. So my apologies on that. Oh, tea lush. I'm just waiting for Julie to think. So while I'm doing for the questions and stuff, I'll do the boring things, which is that I have a workshop going on tomorrow, which is over at the Days in Durham area. There's one space left, all the rest have gone. So I had a couple of spaces, they've now all gone. I've only got one left. So if anybody's interested in that sort of training or anybody's interested in that workshop tomorrow, maybe give me an inbox over Facebook. It's 10 till 4. This is a beginner's workshop, but definitely a workshop that's very good for getting you up and on your feet there with connections to that. Let's have a look. So Sarah's saying, no, don't speak good lass. That's well done, Sarah. Cam's saying, when working, medium link is okay to start with a cycle in progress and i.e. tarot cards. Right, it's up to you, Cam, as to what you want to do. I know a lot of people use psychic cards and oracle cards and things like that, and there's nothing wrong with them. They're just a tool. That's what they are. They tend to be a connection to... They tend to be a connection to just tools or just a connection to being able to link to the energy of the client or the energy that's around and around. I've got to carry... around and about the client, if that makes sense. So what I would say to you is there's no real problem with using them. What I would say is don't get too used to them. They can be fun for the clientele. The clientele tends to like them, the sitter who you may be reading for. They like to see the pictures. They like to see all of them types of things. They sort of really are quite interested in them there, if that makes sense. If you're a medium, you can use the tools, I suppose, but why give yourself the extra stress and aggravation? If you can read the tools, you can read the energy. So to me, it would make more sense to teach you or learn you to read energy and just read the energy currents that run around about the client's auric field, or learn really what the best thing to do is connect to the spirit world, because they have more knowledge and more understanding, which is the intelligence of the spirit world, which is what I talk about, which gives you a better understanding of what's going on with your client, if that makes sense. Psychic stuff can sometimes be misconstrued, or it can be sort of moved around a little bit, and sometimes it doesn't always work out there. I would always go with the spirit link. Unfortunately, the only thing with the spirit world is they don't predict. They don't have anything to do with anything like that. I know people seem to have a great sort of idea that the spirit world are going to start predicting, are going to start telling you what to do and these sort of things. And unfortunately, they don't really do that. So what I would say to you is while the spirit world will make me aware of what's going on around and about you, because they are always with you and always watching over you, excuse me, they will not tell you how to live your life, if that makes sense. But with connections to the cards and any sort of tool, pendulums, dowsing rods, oracle cards, boards, whatever it may be, there's nothing wrong with them, but it's just reading energy, or they're allowing you to read an energy where if you're medium, you may as well just read the energy that's coming from the spirit world, and it makes life much, much easier there for you, Cam. So I hope that answers your question, if that makes sense. I tend to, when I'm doing my readings, most of mine are evidential readings, so my sittings are evidential. Unless somebody, only concern is what is out immediately. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. You know, I mean, my readings are evidential readings, so I'm constantly connected to the spirit world. What tends to happen is if you're trying to run too late, and especially if you don't know the difference between flipping the switch, which is where you've walked yourself, and I did a video on YouTube the other day about this, where you're walking yourself or you're thinking yourself into the spiritual world, so you think yourself in there. But what can happen is you can also sort of think yourself back out, and if you don't know the difference, or you don't realize you've done either one, you can think you're working on the mediumistic link, but really you're working on the psychic link, and you don't know, and that can take some time and some practice. The best thing I would recommend for anybody, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with psychics, and I'm certainly not saying there's anything wrong with fortune tellers, but stay with the mediumship link, because it's better for you there, if that makes sense. Reason being, their energy is easier to work with. What they tell you is far better than what you'll ever get off a psychic link. If you're going to do psychic work, then stay with the psychic work. So just either do psychic work and fortune tell and predict, or just do the mediumistic work, which is evidential, bringing forward the evidence, these types of things. If you can learn to understand when you work mediumistically and when you're working psychically, then by all means do so. But be careful you don't get caught out, all right? Julie's saying, do you ever use psychometry to sense the energy, history, and emotional side of an object? Yes. It is very confusing. It is very confusing. And unfortunately, Sarah, in the business, there isn't enough people who know the difference. Most people think they're working on a mediumistic link, and they're not. They're working on a psychic link, and they don't know the difference. And unfortunately, I see it time and time again going on in the industry, and I see it on rostrums all of the time. Unfortunately, people are working massively on a psychic link and not on the evidential link there, or the spiritual link. But getting to Julie's question, yes is the answer to your question. Have I done psychometry? Yes, I did it in a closed group many years ago, when I was a fledgling there, when I was just starting out, and I used to sit in a closed group for a little while, just sort of homing in on my skills and learning sort of new things and that type of thing. How does it work? We used to put them in envelopes, and you would read the envelope, so your hands would go over the top of it, and 9 times out of 10 I would say either an image or I'd get a feeling of it or whatever it is, if that makes sense. Right, I'll take a look at your question in a minute, Claire. All right. But it's basically just reading the energy, which is actually a psychic link. You're actually linking on a psychic link first and then to a mediumistic link. You could go to what I would do if I was doing psychometry now. I would take a hold of the thing. I would take my awareness. I would think myself into the spirit world. And I would say to my guides, who does this belong to? I will more than likely get an answer back. It'll be a woman. I'll probably get a mom. And more than likely straight away, that person will be there, because when you're sitting in any sort of closed group or any sort of sitting, the loved ones are always there with the item of jewellery or the item of whatever it may be. So it's normally either jewellery or a photograph or a pen or something that person's owned, if that makes sense. But what tends to happen is a lot of people go to a psychic link, they will feel it, or they'll just work on this sort of psychic vibration, so they'll feel the energy of the ring, but they wouldn't take the awareness to the spirit world. See, I would do it the other way. I would go to the spirit world. Instead, I would just hold the package, and I would take my mind to the spirit world and say to my guides, who does this belong to? Where everybody else would start feeling it and wondering what it was and this, that, and the other, which is the psychic side of it, which is where you're clicking in on your psychic ability. So there's a big difference. There's people don't understand the difference, and this is the problem. So let's take the mediumistic link for me, and I'll come back to these questions. With the mediumistic link, if it was me and I was doing psychometry, what I would do is I would take the pen. So I don't know, this lighter. Yes, I know, Stephen. I know. I've done quite a bit. I've knocked a few of them out, Stephen. I know. I have got it, darling. I have got it. I have watched it. All right, and I've knocked a few of them off, actually. So if I had this lighter, right, I would, if I was going to do it on a psychic link, so let me give you a demo on this, right? If I was going to give it a psychic link, I would just put it in my hands. I wouldn't take my awareness to the spirit world, and I would just sort of feel it, like I was just sitting here, like me and you, I'd be just sitting. So I don't know, most years I'd be sitting holding something at the minute, or doing something, or you'll be watching me, or whatever it may be. So I would just feel it. I would just feel it and think, It belongs to a man maybe. But if I think myself in the spirit world, so I would get a hold of the lighter and I would walk myself in the spirit, so I'd go to the spirit world and I'd think, right, who does this belong to? Who does it belong to? Why is it here? Da-di-da-di-da. Or I would say, who does this, in my mind, I would say, who does this lighter belong to? 9 times out of 10, I would get an answer back. It was Dad's. Where if you're just on a psychic level, you're constantly sort of trying to gauge. Does that make sense? It's weird to explain it. I can't explain it because it's so hard, because I don't understand, because I'm so used to doing mediumship. I can't do the psychic side of it. I can't. Like psychics, like it's just box standard. It's just it would just be the light. It would just be like but I would just look at it and go, well, it might have belonged to a man or it might have belonged to a woman. Where if I walk myself into the spirit world, so I would go to the spirit world, I would like shift my consciousness and I would go, who does this lighter belong to? And I would straight away get an answer back, Dad. Where if you're just doing a psychic link, it's sort of guesswork on a psychic link. That's the best way I can probably put it. It's guesswork. It's guessing. It's like, I'm looking at the lighter and I'm thinking, who could this belong to? Well, it could be Mum or Dad. Where if I got into the spirit world, I would get a clear answer. It belongs to Dad. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I mean by that? Tell me if you don't, and I'll try and explain a little bit more so you get it. So basically, psychic work, to me and you, or psychometry, if you were doing a psychic link, it's sort of guesswork. You're guessing, you're sort of guessing it. You're sort of guessing who the energy belongs to. You're sort of guessing that it may or may not belong to Mum or Dad. Where if I was to walk to the spirit world or just shove my consciousness over and then shout in and go, who does this lighter belong to? I would get an answer straight back. Where sometimes when you're with psychic work, you're guessing. You're not quite sure. Could be, maybe, well, Plus, with psychic work, it feels different. Like, the energy feels different. So, on a psychic level, the energy feels, like, dull. It feels sort of, the best way I can put it, when I work psychically, it feels a bit sort of staticky. It feels a bit sort of jagged. It feels a bit sort of like that. Where when I've taken my awareness to the spirit world, the energy feels smooth. It's like velvet. It's like it just runs. It's like running. It's like running like a wheel in motion. It like runs and runs and runs. Every now and then it might slow a little bit because either I've started to interfere with my conscious mind, or because I'm either missed something, or I haven't quite grabbed it right when I've been working that wheel. So, for example, if I was working a communicator in the spirit world, I see it as a wheel. The best way to put it is like a wheel. And that wheel's turning, but it turns like, if you were to get like a waterfall and the water's making the wheel turn round, well, that's a bit like how I can explain it. So the water's coming in, so that's the communicator, that's the information coming in from the communicator, coming round the cog, and the cog's like feeding it into me, but it's like steady and it's like going in a really good motion, if that makes sense. When it's psychic work, it's sort of, the water's like, not gush, where the water's like moving faster or really, really slow. Does that make sense? So it's sort of jagged, it's sort of not steady. Where when you work with the spirit world, the energy's really steady, it's even, it's like velvet. It's the most strangest way to explain it. But psychic work is just sort of round and it's like all over, it's like, it's scattered, it's not as steady as I'd like it to be, if that makes sense. So when I work psychically, excuse me, the lighter, I would just sort of look at the lighter, because psychic work, a lot of psychic work is vision work, so it's eye work. I would look at the lighter and I would think, well, it might belong to Mum, but I'm not quite sure. Where if I take my awareness over to the spirit world and ask, I would always get an answer back, and the correct answer. So I hope that answers the question for you there. Let's take a look at some of the other questions that we have here. So, right, Claire H is saying, hiya Danielle, in what ways is it so different to work in development classes as opposed to the general public? What's the difference what is the difference? Right, Claire, an answer to your question, developing classes are where you are a developing medium. So you're not exactly ready for the general public. So what you do in development classes is you will get involved in activities, you will get involved in structure in there, you will get involved in things that will help you to progress your mediumship and move that mediumship forward, in order so that when the time is right, you will have all of the skill set in place in order to be able to hit the general public or to stand on a church rostrum, do one-to-one sittings, whatever it may be there. What I tend to say is that the general public, if you ain't ready for them, they'll eat you alive. They will eat you alive. And it is daunting. It's a very daunting experience when you're standing on some church rostrum or you're sitting with a one-to-one person right in front of you. When you have got somebody sitting in front of you and they are looking at you and they are going, I want the answers, I want the information. And if you aren't prepared for that, you can crumble, you will crumble. And it's all about confidence as well, and making sure that, and that's what development classes give you if you're in a good development classes. You know, I mean, I've seen some not so good development classes where they are tearing strips of students, where they are doing sort of all sorts of stuff in order to sort of, I don't know whether it's a jealousy thing, I don't know whether it's something to do with they don't like to see Mediumship Legends. I'm not quite sure what all that's about, and I don't know why that goes on within the movement there as much as it does, but it does, unfortunately. But with connections to development classes, and if you get in a good development class, you can learn all sorts, absolutely all sorts, and you will come away from there a more confident medium, a more professional medium, and certainly a lot more happier with the certain skill sets in place in order to basically deliver to the general public, and also to be able to handle the general public. Most of the general public that I've worked with are really easy general public to work with. There is a time, some of them that you get that are incredibly hard work, especially on sort of any kind of rostrum work or on a sitting. Some people come in with very set, structured ideas of what it is they want, how much it is that they want, and aren't prepared to budge from any of that. And that's okay if you've got that skill set in place. If not, you can find yourself in a bit of a jam, and it will rock your confidence if you let it. So when you've taught to me about development classes and what's the difference between them, development classes are there where you're in a safe place where you can develop your mediumship so that it's ready for the general public. Hi to everybody who's just saying hi. For anybody, for where you are with the general public, what you were saying is that you are ready to work with the general public, and you have the abilities in order to be able to do what is needed in order to deliver the service, the one-to-one, or the rostrum or floor work there for the general public. So hope that answers your question a little bit there for you, Claire, darling. Right, hi to everybody who's just saying hi. It's really nice to see you. Cam saying, easiest way to break cycle from Danielle. Best way to break psychic from Danielle teaches me is to learn to face away from my client. Yeah, best thing to do with anything to do with psychic work, or is I personally don't look. You're welcome, Claire, darling. Is not to look at your client. You know, I tend to look and look away, look and look away. That keeps my psychic broke, so I don't link in on a psychic connection. Also, I've got a couple of other tips and hints that I give to my clientele or the people that I train to stop that psychic link clicking in, especially if you stand on a church rostrum. Also to stop when people are pulling on you on a dem as well, because unfortunately, when you've got 40, 50, 60 eyes standing on you and you're one person on a rostrum, what can happen is their psychic ability, or they're psychically of watching you, they are psychically pulling your energy to them to give them a message when really you're not with them. And that can and does happen because thoughts are living things. What we're doing is telling our loved ones to come through. Hi, you've got really nice bleached hair. My hair's not bleached, love. Sorry, my hair's not bleached. What the general public can do is, because they want a message, they can sort of pull you. So I have a couple of tips and hints there in order to stop all of that going on. So thanks for that there, Cam, as well. Have I missed any questions? Makes sense? I hope it does. It's really hard to explain a psychic ability because of the fact that it's a feeling. It really is a feeling, because doing it off seeing, unless I've got one for seeing, I've got one for feeling. It doesn't work on the known. Psychic only works on a feeling and on a seeing link, which is psychic clairvoyance and some elements of clairsentience there from time to time, because some clairsentience can be coming from the spirit world, but some of it can also be coming from the general public as well, or coming from your reading the auric field, if that makes sense. So you have to be really, really careful with that connection. So what I would say to you is if you're working anyway psychically, take the hints and tips that I've given you, which is connections, not to look at your client or look away from your client and then look back, which breaks that connection down there. If you're working on a demonstration link, I tend to, and you'll probably see me if anybody watches me dem or has seen me watch me dem, is that my body's always on sort of it's always on a tilt. It's like a bit of a tilt. I've always got to tilt it a little way, and it's for a reason. It's to stop that sort of clairsentient sort of psychic pulling or psychic ability pulling there, if that makes sense. And also stops me linking in on a psychic ability as well. Not that it happens very often, because it doesn't, but it just sort of double checks and keeps my psychicness out of the way of my demonstration work. So let me take a look at some more of your questions. How am I? I'm very well. Thank you very much. I hope you are really, really well. Hiya to Kerry, who's just joining as well, so it's nice to see you, Kerry. Julie, is it true our spirit guides is with us from birth, and do you have to nurture the relationship to build the trust? Okay, so I am the conform to the norm. Why? Because I don't have the guides that I was born with, as far as I know. The guides that I have with me are the guides that I found at the time in which is when I come up onto the movement. The man who I've had with me has been with me a long time. I was just unaware of that. But do I believe I've had him since birth? No, I don't believe I do. Do I agree with some people do have their guides from birth and these doorkeepers from birth? Yeah, it's probably a possibility. I never not say that that's not a possibility. It probably is a possibility, and I know probably lots of mediums have had them guides all of their life, and who am I to say any different to that? All I say is that I'm different to the norm. When I would say that people say to me, you know, I change doorkeepers all the time, just for the hell of it, just because I want to, you know what I mean? Most people have the same doorkeeper, and that's the way it goes. Not me. I have lots of different people, and lots of different. I work with lots of different guides all of the time. Why? Because I like to learn from different spirits, different people, different communications, every energy is different, and it's all teaching me something in some capacity, if that makes sense. Do you need to nurture that relationship? Always, always. You know, would I ever let my man go? But never. Not a shadow of a doubt. He's my best friend. He is everything to me, and that relationship is solid, and I mean as solid as a rock. There's nothing would ever. If he told me the sea was going to turn over tomorrow, I would believe him, and that's the God's honest truth. If he told me that, you know, I was going to fall down them stairs in 2 hours' time, then I would believe him, because he's never, ever, ever let me down, ever. He's always been bang on the pennies. I might, like, it might not come in at the time in which that I predict, because there's no time frame in the spirit world. But does his stuff always come in, and does what he tell me always come in? Always, without a shadow of a doubt. You do need to grow them relationships. People say, how do you grow them relationships? Just talk to them like you talk to your best friend. I mean, I talk to him like I talk to my best friend Natalie. You all know my best friend Natalie. I talk to him like I talk to her. I talk to him about everything and anything. I talk to him about stuff that normal people probably wouldn't talk to their guides about. I talk to my guides about, but it's what you use your guide for. Do you know what I mean? Some people use their guides for other intentions. I use my guides for all sorts of intentions. Certain guides help me with certain tasks, other guides help me with other tasks. It just depends. But does the majority of my information come from him? Aye, without a shadow of a doubt. And there ain't a lot that he doesn't do for me. He does my trance work, he does all of my one-to-one work, my demonstration work, he does all my teaching with me. There ain't a lot that guy doesn't do with me. The only thing he doesn't do with me is the healing element. Why? I don't know, it just doesn't happen with him for some reason. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's not something that he's that interested in. Do I think he could probably learn it? Yeah, probably, but is he interested? No, not really. So I have another guide for that element, if that makes sense. I have other guides so I use for other things as well. It just depends on what the task is that I need in the spiritual world. But I just talk to them like I'm talking to you and ask them questions, and I just sit. It's like a mother's hubbard up there. You're sitting and you're cracking on. Do you know what I mean? About out and out, and you just. You know what I mean? Am I in there every day? Every morning I am, but that's not to talk to my guides. Sometimes it's just to sit, just for the spirit world, because I like to keep an idea on, you know, on them types of things, on like me, like on my energy. I like to keep an eye on what's going on with me in general, etc., etc., etc. But do you need to nurture that relationship? Always, always. As children grow in the spirit world, do they still grow up? Right. So this is a big common question I get time and time again, and it's always asked of me with connections to children in the spirit world. So it's the same as the intelligence of the spirit. So should we lose a child who was a miscarriage or through a medical procedure, or where it be through that child didn't quite make it here to the earth plane for whatever reasons, the child will go back to the spirit world in the way in which that was lost to the earth. That energy can choose to either, because remember, the physical body doesn't go. The physical body stays here, but the energy or the soul will go back towards the spirit world. Now, that energy or soul can continue to grow in whichever way it would like to, or it can choose to stay in the way in which that it was when it was lost to the earth plane. It's entirely up to that energy as to what it does, when it does it, and if and how it wants to do it. This is the intelligence of the spirit world. It also goes into the SNU 7 principles of the continual existence of the spiritual soul, and also the constant evaluation or the constant evolvement of the spiritual soul, not only here but also in the spiritual world. So in connections to babies, they can either choose to stay in the way in which they were when they left from the earth plane, or they can go into the spirit world and continue to grow and learn, which I know children who do that, namely one of my own. So I hope that answers your question for you a little bit there. Have you ever been given, Beverly's asking, have you ever been given any information on your guides about murders, etc., and happened because it's truly not all good messages? As you've seen, and anybody who's watched me live on Facebook and done messages on Facebook, I've done every sort of link going, from shotguns to murders, and I was talking, I think, the other week on here about the little girl that I did who come from somewhere in Wales, where I got a link that she'd been abused, she'd been taken from a park, and she'd been sexually assaulted, and then he'd murdered her. And I said to my guys, don't bring me stuff like that again. I says, I can't be doing that, like, that's too much. I don't like it. But again, everybody dies differently. When are you in Wales, please? I'm not sure yet, Claire. I'll let you know. What I say is I don't really like them type of things, because it just upsets me too much. It upsets me. I don't like anything like that with kids. But everybody who's watching me on live and stuff will see me done different connections to how people pass, and people pass in all sorts of different ways. What I would say as well is I was on a demonstration in Durham SNU the other week, and I seen a lad just completely jump off a viaduct, like just completely just jump off it, like a bridge this high, just jumped off it, and I just seen him just like falling down. So I've done many different sort of passings, how people pass, the way in which that they pass, you know, all these types of things there. So what I would say to you is everybody passes differently. I have run some murder links before. I've done ones where people have been stabbed. I've seen ones where people have been blown up. I've seen where people have been choked to death. I've seen and heard all sorts of stuff, because everybody passes differently. It just depends on how aware the medium's mind is in order to allow that to go, like, to come in, if that makes sense. I mean, I've done them links for forever, you know, since I first started out. I've never not done them. Why? I don't know. It just happens for me. I don't know. I don't ask a lot of questions about who's coming through. I just open my mind and just say, right, whoever's coming in, let's be having you. Do you know what I mean? And make sure you speak up properly and gives you a story. And the rest just sort of goes from there type of thing. Do I always get it right? No, and there's no medium will ever get it 100% spot on the money. They just won't, because the mental mind will always interfere in some capacity, always, especially if you're not having a good day, or the sitter's being a bit awkward or whatever it may be there, and your confidence does and will get like sort of shocked there, and the conscious mind will start to filter in or will start to interfere, unfortunately. But in answer to your question, yes, I've done many different ones like that, Beverly. Claire are saying, Should you do open platform if you're not ready to work with the public for another 2 to 3 years for experience of working with the public, and so they learn when you're working with the public? Do you know what I say? Personally, do it when it feels right for you. You know, for me personally, I sat in private sat for 2 years. Why? Because it just come naturally to me. It just was something that was something that I found was easy for me to do. I found private sittings at that time just really, really easy. Would my private sittings be as good as what they were now? Probably not. No, because I've learned a lot in the last 4 years. But I will always say to people, get up on that rostrum when you're good and ready and not before. It's up to you. You will know when the time is right. You will know when it's good for you. You'll know when it feels right for you. You should never get up onto a platform too early if you don't want to. Don't ever be pushed into it. I'll tell you a story. Many, many years ago when I first started out in the movement, I used to sit in an open circle. I used to go to open circles and things. And there was one run by a particular person who I have a great disliking for. There's not many people in the movement I have a disliking for, but this gentleman I have a real disliking for. And this gentleman tried to push me up onto a floor. And I had my link. I knew where I wanted to be, but for some unholy reason, I could not get my backside out of the chair. I couldn't. It wouldn't get. I couldn't get up. I just couldn't get up. Whether that was for intervention, whether it be whatever it was, I couldn't honestly tell you. But I could not get my backside out of that chair. And I'm normally one of the first up. I was always one of the first up on an open circle, always, because I love to dem. I love to be on a floor. There's nothing brings me greater passion than to stand and demonstrate. It absolutely enthralls me. I love finding the right communicator with the right sitter. I love getting the evidence right. I just love it. I love it, right? It's just a challenge. It's a challenge for me, and I find it really exciting. And this man tried to push me up. He was like, he lost his temper, and he was screaming and shouting at me and everything in front of a room full of 80 people. And I was massively, massively embarrassed. And it's enough to put you off your mediumship. It really is. And if I'd have let it, it probably would have put me off my mediumship. So what I would say to you, Claire, is if and when you're ready to get up, if you're not ready to work with the public for another 2 years, experience of working with the public, I would say you do whatever feels best for you. Try your open circles, which gives you the experience of standing in the sort of that work and floor field. I would also say get out and about in different open circles. Don't stay in the same one, because as much as I know the same people keep turning up, and I know there'll always be a different link there, but trying different open circles with different people in from different backgrounds and different places makes for a more experienced medium and builds your knowledge base set there as well. People say to me, oh, well, why do you travel as much, Danielle? Because I'm building knowledge. I'm just learning different things from different congregations. And while I probably find that in the north, different congregations in different areas present different tasks, and it's really vitally important. People talk different ways in different places. Wales, Scotland, Liverpool, Birmingham, they all have different terminology. So as a working medium, my experience, because I kind of do books, I got no interest in books. Books just don't interest me. Even I've read books and I get books and all the rest of it, but I'm sort of a doer. I'm not a reader, and more so books are other people's personal experiences. They're not my personal experience. Where if I'm out there on that floor working them rostrums and them churches or sitting in them one-to-ones, it's my own personal experience. It's something that I will learn for myself. So in answer to your question, Claire, is you say start learning before you work with the public. I would learn a little, but if you're ready, hit the public. If you think you're ready for it, by all means, go for it. You always do what feels best for you. Never take what I say, what any other medium says, or anybody else for that matter. If it feels good for you, feels right, and you want to do it, get yourself away, sweetheart, and I wish you the best of luck with it, because the only way that you will ever get out there and push yourself forward is by getting out there and doing it. And I honestly I can't tell you in that anymore from my own personal experience, because that's how I did it. I just went out there and I did it. And sometimes I failed, Claire, and other times I shined like your very first gyro, love, you know what I mean? Had it always worked out for me? No. Have I had times lacked in experience? Probably, yeah, because maybe I've run before, I could walk a little bit. But my advice to you is, if it feels right, then you do it for what feels good for you and nobody else. And if and when the time is right, you'll know it. Trust me. All right, I hope that answers your question anyway. Casey, sorry for your loss. When are you in Wales? I am in Wales next year. I'm just waiting for the date. She's coming back to me with the dates in a couple of weeks' time there, Claire. Claire. Thanks for answering. No bother, Beverly. Julie saying, what do you do to open yourself up to energies and close down at the end of the evening? Right, so as with the video I did a couple of weeks ago, the video that I did was all about opening, closing, protection and grounding. Thank you very much. I look forward to it. No problem, Claire. What I would say to you is when I first started out, I did the old school way because it was the way I was taught. You stick a flower on your head, you stick a zip on your head, whatever it may be. You open it up, you get ready to work, X, Y, and Z. Now these are called mechanics. This is what they call structure. Mechanics is structure, structure is mechanics. That's basically the top and bottom of it. I did a bit of research into mechanics and stuff like that. It's structure, just it's another word for using in order to be able to link to the spiritual world, in order so that you can work for the spiritual world there. Basically, it's structure that you put within your mind in order to tell your mind it's now time to work. It worked for a while, but as I've moved more and more down the path, I've learned, as my mediumship has grown and as I've grown as a medium, I've started to just move my consciousness, so thinking myself into the spiritual world, if that makes sense. What I tend to do is put my intention to it. So before I even get in there, my intention is to my people, this is what we're doing tonight. This is what I'm looking for. You know, any chance we can have this, this and this, you know, da-di-da-di-da. Make sure that everybody who comes forward is the loved ones, etc., etc., etc. Does it work? Always. Always. And then all I do is when I'm finished working, I turn around and say, right, that's it, folks. We're not working. Everybody goes back. And I just come out there, I think myself back out in the spirit world, drink the water, go and talk to the people who've been in the congregation, talk to the chair wifey or whatever it is that I'm doing, you know, and I drink tea and eat biscuits and cake. And then people wonder why I like cake, because I'm always fed cake at church. So that's what happens there. Good question. I didn't think of asking that one. So yeah, that's what happens when I'm doing any kind of demonstration work. That is a natural progression. If you want to stay with the structured side of the mechanics of what it is that you need, by all means do so. If not, and you want to start and move your consciousness over and think yourself into the spirit world, that's okay too. No one is right or wrong, Julie. It's just what you need in order for you to feel safe when you're working for the spirit world. And there's nothing wrong with either or. Some people frown upon this old style of opening and closing. I ain't here to tell you what's right, wrong or indifferent. All I ask anybody is to look at how you do your mediumship, and if you can improve it and try it and see a different way of doing your mediumship versus the way you used to do your mediumship. You may not like it, you might want to stay with this, and that's okay. There's no problem with that. But if you can move your consciousness and learn to keep your mind disciplined, and this is a lot of things that I see with new mediums or mediums who aren't so sure of themselves, that they haven't quite disciplined the mind enough. And to be honest, any medium who tells me that they've got it 100% signed, sealed and delivered and disciplined in their mind, then, you know, I've got to say you're very few and far between, because each and every one of us will slip over there from time to time in whatever capacity, for whatever reasons. It is unfortunate, but that's just the way it happens. But a lot of newbies I tend to find are constantly living in the spirit world, or they are constantly one foot in the spirit world, one foot in the conscious world. And that can make life really, really complicated, because then we get what we call hypersensitive. So we don't know what's the difference. We don't know what's ours, and we don't know what's the spirit world. And that can be the problem when you're constantly living in the spiritual world 24/7, or one foot is always in the spiritual world. You become hypersensitive. You start to think that what is the real world is actually the spirit world, and what you actually think is the real world, you think is the spirit world. And there just becomes a massive sort of overlap. And it makes life really, really complicated. So the thing I tell all of my students is to take that progression slowly, decide whether you want to stay with what you have in order so that mechanic keeps you out of the spirit world, or if you can learn to bring your mediumship along that path, keep your mind disciplined enough so that when you are walking yourself into the thinking yourself in the spirit world, you can walk yourself in and then walk yourself out. That can take a long time to get right, really long time, and it may not always work for you in every capacity, and every medium's different here. Remember, what we're saying with this structured stuff will probably work for the majority of people. For a select few, or for those who are a little bit more up that path or further down that path, this other sort of walking, thinking yourself into the mediumship or into the spirit world may work for you. It may not. And I don't like to tar all mediums with the same brush, because ultimately then what happens is people go, oh well, I can't do that, but they're saying I should do it this way, and then they get panicked, they get stressed, and they don't like it, and then they back away, and then fear sets in. So I always give you these two and say, pick which one works for you and go for it. If you want to stay like that, by all means do so. If not, you want to try something else, then try that too. But don't give yourself a hard time if you have to go back to the old stuff or the stuff that you first started out with, because we all get busy down here, and unfortunately our minds can also get very, very busy as well. And what happens is like I say, there can always be an overlap, and you know, even with the best of disciplined minds, and you know, and mine's a lot more disciplined now than it used to be. But first over, it was all hour, I've got to be honest with you, because I loved it in the spirit world, and I still do, and the sensories are gone in, and everything's like, oh, what's going on here, do you know what I mean? People get really excited and stuff like that. But what tends to happen is that when my mind is thinking or overthinking, which is what we do, think ourselves into the spirit world, and this is where people say to me they fall asleep or they put their head on the pillow and start saying faces. It's because your mind is still thinking. And where you've been thinking about the everyday stuff, what tends to happen is you think yourself into the spirit world. You've thought yourself out of there, and before you know it, you're already in the spirit world, and then you start saying faces and you're hearing voices and you're feeling things, X, Y, and Z, because you've moved your thought pattern from the conscious world to the spiritual world. And like I say, what can happen is if your mind's not disciplined enough, that's easy done. So a lot of people stick with the zip or the flower or the teapot or whatever it is. And I do use the teapot technique for children because it's easier for children to get it, if that makes sense. Where children who I've got working with me, they need a teapot on in order so that they need that mechanic, they need that structure. Unfortunately, the adults, it's easier for them, but never do whatever. Don't always do what people tell you to do. You do what's best for you, and if it works for you, then stick with it. Different fix what ain't broken. If it ain't working for you, then maybe it's time to try something else. Or if you fancy trying something else, by all means do so. If not, stay with what you got, my darling. I hope that answers your question. Do you remember what a spirit has said during a trance sitting? No. Nah. No, Julie, I never ever remember what's in the trance in. Never. Very rarely do I know what's going on, to be fair. I do it, honestly. I think I must look a Rick Wally in this chair, you know what I mean? But that doesn't stop me getting in the chair. You know, I'm not bothered but make myself look a right do. I'm not, right? That's one thing I'm not bothered about, right? If I got it wrong, or I've done something wrong or whatever, then I need to stick my hands in the air and go, oh, look, I was wrong there, I was bang out order, you know, apologies, you know, I'll learn from that. And like, I'm not bothered about looking at Wally. How many of you have seen me on Facebook, right? Like, here's all our, I'm like Scary Mary, I'm saying all sorts of crazy stuff. You know, it doesn't bother me. I'm not so bothered about them types of things. But like, I do sometimes think to myself, God, I must look like a right Wally in this chair, or I must like look like some. But I just forget them things because I trust so implicitly in him, and it's like I'm there, but I'm not there. It's like I'm in one world, but I'm not in this world either. It's like my conscious world, and my conscious mind is like took like a back seat. And my spiritual mind is like come forward, if that makes sense. So there's been like where we've thanked ourselves in the spirit world. I mean, I have a technique in place for taking me down to the altered states. I do have a technique in place, and a one that works very well for me. There's lots of different techniques I've seen over this last year where I've been doing a lot of work with different trance mediums, gaining knowledge and understanding in that department, because I don't really like to learn from just one person. I like to learn from lots of different people in order so that I can get a bigger knowledge base set, if that makes sense. But this one tends to work for me. This technique works for me. I've seen other techniques of sitting in rooms and, you know, bringing the guide in, all of this, but that doesn't work for Danielle. I have my own technique, and it works very nicely for me. But with connections to your question, Julie, now I haven't got a clue what's said. And honestly, I'm telling you, man, Chief's quite funny. That's what you call my guide, Chief. He's really funny, you know. Have you any tips on personal development, Dan, please, and how we could work through our issues? Yes, I'll give you some, my love. And he's really funny. You know, Cam's met him. Haven't you, Cam? I know Cam's watching us. Cam's met him. He's met my guy. He is quite funny, and he's got a really funny personality, which blends quite nicely with my personality, because I'm quite funny and I'm quite giggly. I'm like a little schoolgirl, really, right? I'm like a little child, because I just do naughty things all of the time. Naughty things. I'm just so naughty. I'm always pushing the boundaries and the limits to see how much I can get away with. I love it. But he's really sort of a chicky sort of fella type of thing. Right, I'll have a look at that question as well. So, but I really do enjoy trance. It's one of my favourites there. Let's have a look. Do you remember transiting? Good question, Julie. I've learned a lot from Danielle. Yes, Karen is one of my Mediumship girls. How nice to have you. How do you get into the spirit world? Right, so for all of us who are on here, Chief is the best. He is now. He's funny as man. I come running up transit, man, and they're all bad laughing in the room. Look at what's going on, and they're all bad laughing. And they're giggling. He is funny. He is. He's an intelligent. He's a very intelligent man. He's a very smart man. My man. I love him. I love him to death. I do. Anyway, let's talk about some other questions. So, Caitlin's asking, how did you get into the spirit world? How did I get into the spirit world personally, as in my personal journey? He just texted me, how are you, Danielle? And I know exactly what he does. He thinks I don't know him, you know. He thinks I don't know what he does. And because my best friend Natalie and them tell me, and my home circle and stuff tell me, and that he takes the mick out of me all the time, because he says I don't technically notice how he says. I don't, you know, now. I take absolutely no notice how he says. And then he shakes his head at me all the time as if to say, you know, this, that, and the other. I'm like, oh, how am I? It'll be all right. And he'll go, come on, then. You go, no, Danielle. And I'm like, oh, but why not? And he'll go, it's not right. And I'll go, man, no, but come on, not just try. You go, no, Danielle. I go, oh, you always say no. And he's like, well, you have to do things the right way. And I'm like, I don't want to do things the right way. But he keeps me on the straight and narrow anyway. So, anyway, let me take a look. For Caitlin, do you mean Caitlin as in my own personal experience of how I come into mediumship, or how can I teach you to get into the mediumship, the spirit world? Let me know which one you mean, darling, all right? You are so natural. Thanks, Sarah, sweetheart. Claire saying, have you any tips on personal development? Claire, tell me a little bit about your development. Let me know where you are with your development, and then I can sort of give you a little bit of help and hand on that one. Because I don't know whether you're doing sort of floor work or whether you're doing sitting work. So let me know, right, what you're doing, and then I can have a look at that. Julie says, if you're looking for a deeper insight and guidance from the spirit world about issues in your life or past traumas, would you say transitants are best? Right. I would say with connections to just a look at what's being said here. I'm trying to have a look at what's being said there. I haven't seen what that's being said there. I'll have to have a look at that. With connections to transiting, they can be really informative, yes, and if you get with a good trance medium, yeah, they can bring all sorts to the forefront there, and things that can be discussed and talked about. So yes, plus it's more spirit on spirit. You're talking to either, depending on whether they're bringing loved ones forward or whether they're bringing forward their guides in order to be able to give you information. It depends on which one they're doing. But do I find transitants a little bit more informative? Yes, I've got to be honest with you, I do. Have I had a couple of transitants? Yes, I've had a couple over the last year to get a bit more feel of them there. They are a little more expensive. I don't know why that is, but they are a little bit more expensive. Would I recommend a transiting for everybody? Yes, I would. I think you would find a great experience from it. I think you would find a great humbleness from it as well there. So would I say it would be any better or any less better than a clairvoyant one? I couldn't honestly gauge. It would depend on how good the transitor was or the trance medium was versus the clairvoyant. Because if you get with a good clairvoyant or a good, mediumistic, evidential medium, it can be just as good there as well. Neither one is any better or any worse there, in my opinion. All right. For Christy, she's saying your last message didn't make sense. What I meant was, can the conscious mind interrupt messages when learning to connect with the spirit world, causing unpleasant thoughts? Right. So for Christy's questions, what I'd like to say is what's happening is, if I'm reading your question quite right here, is your conscious mind will interfere, which is fear-based, all right? And the fear-based will be giving you the awful thoughts. The spirit world's never there to harm you. The spirit world's never there to do anything that would scare you in any capacity. So if you're having unpleasant thoughts, or you're seeing unpleasant things, or you're feeling unpleasant things, then there is a fear base within you that needs to be addressed. It needs to be looked at. You need to understand as to why that fear is coming into place. What is it that's triggering off in your mind in order for that fear to come into place? Because we all have triggers. We all have work to do on the self. And I speak about this quite strongly. A lot of mediums, us in general, need to keep working on the self in order so that the self improves. This will also help with your mediumship as well. Because what happens is you're not frightened of the spirit world. You're frightened of yourself. And I know a lot of people probably won't agree with that, but it is actually the case, is the fact that your fear-based is around yourself and not around the spirit world. And what happens is your fears or your unpleasant thoughts, these types of things, will then play out in the spirit world, which then the spirit world gets a lot of blame for, when really it's not actually the spirit world, it's actually your conscious mind, or your mind is interfering, or your fear-based triggers are interfering with that connection. So I hope that answers your question there, Christine. All right, or Christy, I hope I got your name right. Anyway, can people see him, Sarah? Who? My guide. Sometimes you'll see my face may change because I do something, like he takes on some total, makes sense. Thank you, darling. What I recommend for you, darling Christy, all right, is to go away and look at you and find out what's going on with you. I tend to find that most people who are seeing things in the spirit world, having unpleasant thoughts or something that's going on there, you're going through some kind of emotional issue, or you haven't addressed something on an emotional level. It needs to be addressed in order for that to stop. And I know from experience, from mediums that are trained, 9 times out of 10 when I ask them what's going on within the walking world, they've either got a relationship problem, they've got some kind of marriage problem, they've got some kind of issue in some department, which is playing out in the conscious mind, which is then filtering over into the spirit world, which is making them say bad things in the spirit world. It's not the spirit world, it's the conscious mind hasn't been able to address, nor will it address what's going on there. So go away and work on the self, meditation, sitting in the power, letting go. A lot of fear base is built in around the spirit world because we fear us. We are frightened of the dark. We're frightened of somebody touching us. We're frightened of saying things that may not be quite nice. And it's just a fear that is inside of you. If you address them, you'll find that you don't find them things in the spirit world there. The best of luck for you, darling, all right? How to teach me, says Caitlin. Right, wait a minute, I'll just read the question, Caitlin. Right, Caitlin, again with you, tell me what it is that you're doing. Tell me what it is that you're doing. Are you doing sittings, or are you doing floor demming, or what you're doing? Let me know a little bit more about what you're doing. Cam's saying, while linking to the spirit world, is it possible for another me to pull a link to the extent of leaving you without a link or blank? Nope. Nobody can pinch your link, not at all. The only thing that's going to make that link drop, or the only thing that's going to make that blank come into place is one, either you don't have the knowledge base set within your mind in order to be able to get that full message over. The spirit will do everything in its power to get that over there. But also, if you're talking about the connection to people pinching your links, it's not you've had a fear built in. You've got something built in. What tends to happen is unfortunately, mediums come to watch other mediums, especially if you're quite a well-known medium or whatever it may be. And people panic when they get up in the rostrum, they look around the room and they clap eyes on somebody that they know. Automatically, they then just die. They die. Their confidence flattens. The energy goes, and they just go, oh my God. And they just freak out. They freak out. And what will make you drop a link, what will make you feel as if somebody's taking a link from you or anything like that, it's your conscious mind. The conscious mind's filtering in. It's diluting the information. You're interfering. You're getting involved. Just forget it. Forget it. Best thing you can do there is stay with the spirit world. Trust in your people. Tell yourself that everything's all right. Everything's going okay here. There's no problems here. The amount of mediums I see that freak out on a rostrum because of the fact that they don't know where they want to be. Can someone's medium block another medium? No. Nah. No, because I tell you why. Think of it this way, right? You're the medium standing on the rostrum or on the on a one-to-one, right? The person is with you, they're with your mind, they're working with your mind. Why would they want to go over to another medium and start working with their mind? Why would that happen? Why would that happen? That would not happen. On a psychic ability, people can pull you, they can pull you, and they can pull your energy or pull your auric field. But you're not working as a psychic, you're working as a medium. And mediums or spirit blend with the mind. That's why you're called a mental medium. They cannot interfere unless somebody is like got inside of your head, which is what happens. People do get inside of your head, which is fear-based, which is where you're thinking, oh my God, that medium's come to watch me. They've got a good crack, they've got a cracking like, you know, reputation. What they're coming to see me for. Wow, I wonder if they're trying to destroy me and all these types of things. And all these fears just start like building in. By that time, you've got 20 billion fears inside of your conscious mind. The spirit world can't get through, and the whole lot's gone cake up. And that's because you've allowed it. No medium can take your link at all. Even if you were sharing a double link, which is piggybacking as we call it, or a double link or a crossover link, whatever word you want to use for it, even then the energy is still working. Even if you're working two mediums, we've done this in the training group with Cam and them, you know, they both still have that connection, they both still have that energy, and they are still both working that energy all at the same time. Why? Because they are both working with the same spirit, but there is no way that somebody can just come into a service and just go, oh, look, I'm going to wreck your service. The only person who wreck your service is you. And because you've allowed it, it's got nothing to do with another medium or a sitter or anything like that. It's because you've interfered in somewhere. So the short answer to your question is no. Julie saying, do you experience any common sensations when connecting to other realms, chills? What do you mean by other realms? There's only one realm, which is the spirit world. So which other realms are you talking about, Julie? Fill me in a bit more on that one. Totally making sense. Well done. Thank you, Christy. Claire, I've been developing for 4 years. I've been training in progress groups in a platform. I practice one-on-one Skype mostly. Being lots of open circles, setting the power for 30 minutes. Averaging 50 minutes. Right. So what is it? What is it that's stopping you? So the only person stopping you, Claire, is you. You've had loads of development. You've had loads of training. You're doing one-to-ones. You're doing practice on a floor of demonstration. X, Y, and Z. Are you quite shy, Claire, sometimes? Why do I pick up your... Are you frightened of a no? Because when am I picking up, you're frightened of a no, no. It's you. The only person in the way your mediumship, Claire, is you. You don't think you're good enough. You don't think that you're worthy of to stand on that rostrum and things. That's the only problem. That's the only person that's stopping you. That's the only person that's development, learning with the nose. Yeah, the only person. Where are you based, Claire? I could teach you a couple of techniques that would stop that straight away and would push you straight on. Yeah, that's the problem with you straight away. I picked it up. You're nervous. You have a nervous disposition, you're frightened of a no, and you're frightened of looking stupid in front of a crowd. And you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. You should learn to trust in what you get and give it. And it's the way you package it and all, how you're putting it. You know what I mean? And if you give it wrong, so what? Go back and get more, put more in. And it'll people, Wales travel for mediumship, yes. You'll have to come to one of my workshops, sweetheart, and I'll show you everything you need to know. But that's the problem with you. There's nothing wrong with your mediumship, Claire. It's you. You're the problem with your mediumship. And I know you don't like hearing that, but it is. It's the problem. And I find that with every medium I work with. It's not wrong with the mediumship. It's them. I'm fixing them. It's not that, and then giving them some skill sets. And that's what we're facing here in the mediumship movement. People are trying to, what they're doing is we are training mediums, which is what we need. We do need to do that. But we're not fixing the people. And the people is what's holding the mediumship back. It's the people who are fear-based. We are frightened of the general public. We're frightened of our fellow mediums because there's so much cattiness in the mediumship movement now. There's so many problems in the mediumship movement, which is causing people to feel like the expectation of the bar in mediumship now is obvious. It's if you can't get a full name and you can't do this and you can't get a full address, it's like, you're not good enough. And there's far more to mediumship than just that. Far more. And this is what I'm saying time and time again within the mediumship movement, where if you don't quite deliver or you don't quite give what is expected, then you're not a good enough medium, and that's not the case at all. I've seen some absolutely cracking evidence without any names and stuff in, but I've seen such beautiful messages as well, packed with different evidence that's so fundamentally more important than any address or name or whatever it may be. And I've been through that this year myself, and I know what it's like to feel like that, Claire, where I think you've got to change your work because you don't think you're cutting it. And trust me, sweetheart, you are cutting it. You are. You just don't believe in it enough. That's all. Let's have a look at some of the other ones. Caitlin, I'm still waiting for Caitlin's question there. What is the worst experience you've experienced while connecting the spirit world? None. I haven't really had a bad experience in the spirit world, to be honest with you. My mind has interfered at times and made me think I was having bad experiences in the spirit world. But have I actually had a bad experience in the spirit world, Julie? No. Definitely not. Julie, Deborah Williams. Hi, Danielle. Question: what is a poltergeist? Right. So, poltergeists are kinetic energy. So it's not even. The best way to put it is that when children start to go through puberty, which is normally anything between the ages of 12 to 16, they start to give off what we call kinetic energy or magnetic energy, which is psychic energy to me and you, right? Now, what tends to happen is that will produce phenomena, right? This can sometimes be used in physical work. So this is where you have to be careful when you're watching physical mediums. Some mediums are using kinetic energy, magnetic energy, but aren't actually using spiritual-based energy. So which is the spirit world versus psychic, kinetic, magnetic. Poltergeist energy is basically kinetic energy coming from higher energy, high hormones, or energy from the kinetic, because the energy field has changed. We are changing people from children to adults. And what happens is they are giving off high energy kinetic energy, which will produce phenomena which can move things around the room or can move things in order so that it may look like it is the spirit world. That is what a poltergeist is. Poltergeists are kinetic energy or magnetic energy, or somebody who is giving off quite a high energy source of psychic ability or psychic energy. It has nothing to do with the spirit world. There is no such thing as poltergeists. There's no such thing as demonic things. There is no such thing as hauntings. Hauntings are just memories of a house in which where people used to live, which is what I was talking before, which is about psychometry, where things hold memories of the people. The ring holds memories, but it isn't the actual person in the ring. It's just the memories there. So hope that answers your question, Debbie. Julie saying, when spirit get you to feel choke and pains, etc., the worst experience from the energies. I've never had anything like that, Julie. I've got to be honest with you on that one. Oh, you mean as in when I'm doing like a mediumship or when I'm doing like a reading and stuff like that? Yeah, it can be a bit full on sometimes, you know what I mean? But you just tell them, you say, oh, look, get back, you're a little close. You're blending with my mind a little too much there. And, you know, it can be a little sort of off-putting, if that makes sense. Best thing I just say to them is, oh, ease off there. I don't need all that pressure. I don't need all that feeling. I understand you. I get you. You can take it off now. And 9 times out of 10, they do. They do. Like, for example, if I'm doing a particular lady who's got dementia, my mind just goes like fog. It just goes like fog, and I just know I'm working with somebody who's got a dementia link or an Alzheimer's link. And the minute I say to the woman, I've got your mum here and your mum's telling me she passed with a connection to Alzheimer's, and she says yes to me, it goes away straight away. When it comes to like heart attacks and I get this like awful pain in my chest, it is a bit of a stinger like. And it can sort of catch you a little off guard if you're not sort of prepared for it type of thing. But that just, as quick as I give it off, it goes away. The same with like arthritic pains, like my bones will feel old, I've had a hard day type of thing, like that type of thing. The minute I speak about it, it tends to go off, Julie. Have you ever been out in spirit has visited you to give them a message? Nope. Nah. then things just don't go on for me, Julie. I know people talk about Teresa Caputo and all that type of thing, and you know, this type of thing, but to be honest, it's never ever ever happened for me. I've never had the feeling to go over to somebody in a shop and say, here, look, I've got your mother here with me. I wouldn't dream of doing it. It's against the law, you know. You're not supposed to do them types of things. If you were found out to be doing them, you get shot. I know in America it's a little different out there, but for here in the UK, you've got to be really careful. Like there's rules and boundaries and stuff around all of that. You kind of just kind of run, you're not saying what you want to folk. And if somebody was to drop down dead on you, you could be done for manslaughter because you've actually activated that passing, or you've actually getting involved in that passing, or that person, would that person have passed had you not have said what you said? So you've got to be really, really careful there with that one. All right. Any other questions? No problem. Julie there with Debbie and Julie. Claire, looking forward to it. Any other questions? Have I missed any questions? Seen my, that's my planner for next year. The state of that. It's a mannequin. It's manic. And then there's this year's, which has got very little on it, which I'm so excited about. How would you deal with a situation where your sitter gives you all knows but tells you it's accurate all thereafter? Yes. We've done this exercise. You know we've done this exercise, Cam. You know this exercise well. It is a really good way of strengthening your connection to the spirit world. Learn to trust in the information that you get, learning to give what you get, and learning not to be put off, a bit like Claire there, bless her, with the no's. Because people can and do say no when really the information is correct. It's just they don't know. They don't know it's right. And what happens is people say no because they can't recognise it, or they don't understand it, or whatever it may be. And therefore, then somebody else in the family will know about that. So it's not actually no, it's just the fact that that person didn't know. And I've got a video going up next week about evidence and connecting to evidence and talking about them types of things in order so that you understand a little bit more about yeses and nos and why they are important, if that makes sense. But with connections to that, am I allowed to ask your favourite trance medium? As I'd love to see a good one. I hope that answers your question there, Cam. I've seen a few this year. I've seen a fair few from some that's not so good. See, I don't like a name drop. I'm not a name dropping kind of girl. Like, I've got to be honest with you on that one, Claire. You know, I've seen some of the best in the business this year. I've also seen some not best in the business this year. I've sat in some massive seances, and I've also sat in some very closed off seances as well. A lot of the work's been done down south. Not as much for going on up here in the north as I'd like to see, but in the south, I've been seeing a lot of it. Yeah, you get to see Danielle. You'll get to see me do trance. I can do trance. I do direct voice as well, which is also I bring like loved ones forward and bring evidence forward with the loved ones and stuff. And I don't do a lot of trance, but I do it because I need it as part of my skill set there. And I do train for trance as well. So that's something that I'm really into. You know what I mean? Would I like to look at trance healing? Yeah, because it's another string to my bow. The reason I do anything is in order to enhance my experience and my knowledge, if that makes sense. Would I do it as a profession? Probably not, no, because I quite like mental mediumship. I quite like clairvoyance, and I quite like everything that comes with mental mediumship. But do I have some knowledge on trance? And I'm probably going to give another year of that with trance. Yeah, because I want to learn more. And I'm going away to see some more next year. But I'm going away abroad next year to see some mediums as well, demonstrating to trance. Give me a private inbox, and I'll give you a couple of tips and hints on a couple of people I've seen this year. I didn't publicly like to say, oh, wait, I recommend this one and not that one. It's not really professional of me, do you know what I mean? And I don't like to look like I'm favouring one medium over another medium. So if you give an inbox, Claire, or send me an email, I'll give you a couple of names there you can maybe check out, all right? Some of them are a little pricey, I have to be honest. I've spent quite a bit of money this year on trance and watching trance mediums and that type of thing. No problem, darling, no problem at all. Maybe you can come along and watch me, or come along and watch one of my trance demos there from time to time. I don't do many of them, but I do them from time to time. Any more questions? Excuse me. Did Caitlin ever get back to me, or did she go? Where did Caitlin go? Did he send me another question, Caitlin? I know she asked me about her training, but I didn't say anything more there after that one. Okay, yes, definitely. All right. Are we finished for this evening? I think we may be. Okay. What is trance? Right. Trance is transfiguration. So transfiguration is where they will be overshadowing, which is what we call overshadowing. Yeah, can you make us a cuppa in the morning when I arrive? No, Cam, I can't. I can't. You could make me one, because I've got some video work I've got to do in the morning before I've got to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning, because I've got some people coming to do some video work for the Facebook page, because the videos we've done, they're not working. So I've got them bookers coming at the crack of dawn before I even get to you lot, and then I've got to train you lot, and then I've got to come back and stand doing Facebook messages tomorrow night. But in connection to Kerry's question with what is trance, trance is transfiguration, which is overshadowing of the medium, or overshadowing within the auric field, in order so that the medium will take on characteristics of the person, facial characteristics, becomes like a bit of a mask over the face, if that makes sense. You can bring the bait and butties, actually, Cam. That's what I think. You should bring the bait and butties. So there's that connection there with trance, but that's what trance is. Trance is where the loved one will overshadow the medium, or will interfere with the auric field in order so that they will put like a mask over. So what happens is there's a medium's face, but then there's a mask sort of over the top of it, and its physical features, eyes, nose, mouths, this type of thing. Trance, if it's done well, it can be done really well. There's a good lady here in the north who I've seen a couple of times. Her work's quite good there, and I'm quite impressed by her work. Actually, it's interesting, and I've also seen some of that when I was away down the south, watching a particular woman do trance work there as well. I've seen some cracking full materializations this year of hands, bodies, little girls, you name it. I've seen all sorts this year. Some of it's been really, really good stuff. Some of it I wouldn't recommend, but again, I wouldn't like to say anything bad about anybody. I'm going to go try your advice, as it stands. Since April I lost my mum. Well, give it a whirl, see how you go there, alright? Any other questions, or are we done for this evening, folks? Because if we are, I'm going for my tea. I'm going for Chinese. Cam's got me chomping at the bit for a Chinese. And this cough's getting on my nerves now, because I've been talking that long, I think. Any tips you wish, Danielle? Is there any tips for prepping the morning before I set off? You sit in the power? No, because we'll be doing all that in class anyway. So just get yourself to bed, calm, you know what I mean? And like be there on time would be helpful. You know, because I wouldn't want you to be late or anything. Now would I? And we've got newbies in the class tomorrow as well. It's I know we have some of our own group, but we've got newbies and everything starting tomorrow, and I've got even more newbies next year. The newbies are coming in thick and fast. I don't know what's going on there. Really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it. Okay, if we are finished for tonight, then I will leave all of this with you. Thank you very much for joining me. Please do share this video around. Please subscribe to the to the channel if you're not already subscribed to it. We'll get in the building. Yeah, we'll get in the building. Yeah. They know we coming, man. I've told you. I've already spoken to them. I know the lass well. Deborah, she's a nice lass. Thank you very much for joining me. Take care of yourselves. Have a great evening, no matter what you do. I'll see the rest of us on Facebook tomorrow night for messages. It's always a pleasure to talk about the spirit world. I love talking about the spirit world. Hopefully, next time we'll be able to chat a bit more. But for now, have a great evening, and I'll see you all very, very soon here on the page, or on the channel anyway. Bye for now.